Commitment. A simple word, yet for some, it carries the weight of an iron shackle. It is the final step before a great unknown, the moment when one must finally stop running. And what happens when an avoidant, one who has spent a lifetime perfecting the art of emotional distance, is faced with such a moment? Ah, my dear listener, the result is nothing short of a beautifully tragic paradox. They long for love, yet fear its demands. They crave connection, yet loathe the vulnerability it requires. They can spend years, decades even, drifting in and out of relationships that never quite reach their full depth, not because they do not care, but because caring too much is the very thing they fear. And so today, we embark on a journey into the mind of the avoidant, peeling back the layers of their hesitations, their silent fears, their maddening contradictions. We shall explore why they struggle to commit, what it is they are truly afraid of, and most importantly, how that can change. Not through force, not through ultimatums, but through understanding. So sit with me. Let's take a journey through the corridors of the avoidant heart. I promise you stories, I promise you wisdom, and above all, I promise you truth. The avoidance battle between love and fear. Picture, if you will, a man standing at the edge of a great canyon. Across the gap on the other side stands everything he has ever longed for: love, security, a life shared with another. But between him and that future, a rickety bridge swaying in the wind. To cross it is to risk everything. And so what does he do? He stands there. He contemplates. He paces back and forth. He tells himself he will cross one day, but not today. This is the life of the avoidant when faced with commitment. They are not indifferent to love, nor are they incapable of it. No, their struggle is far more complex. They fear losing themselves in it. For the avoidant, commitment is not simply about choosing another. It is about the terrifying reality of being chosen. Because to be chosen means to be seen. To be seen means to be known. And to be known, well, that, my dear listener, is where the trouble begins. The ghosts that whisper run. You see, avoidance is not something one is born with. It is something learned. There was a time, long ago, when the avoidant did not fear closeness, when love was something they reached for without hesitation. But something happened. Perhaps they grew up in a home where love was conditional, where warmth came one day and vanished the next. Perhaps they learned early on that to rely on others was to invite disappointment. Or perhaps they had their heart broken so deeply, so profoundly, that they vowed never to put themselves in such a position again. And so, the walls went up. They mastered the art of independence, of detachment, of never needing anyone too much. They learned to love from a distance, to engage just enough to keep the illusion of closeness, but never enough to risk true vulnerability. And so, when love comes knocking, when a partner says, "I want more," when commitment is placed before them like a contract waiting to be signed, the ghosts whisper, "Run before they leave you." If you let them too close, they will see you for what you are. You will lose yourself in this, and then what will you have left? And so they hesitate, they pull away, not because they do not love, but because love feels like an invitation to lose control. How avoidants sabotage commitment without realizing it. Now here is where things become particularly tragic, because the avoidant, dear listener, does not sit down one day and say, "Ah yes, today I shall sabotage my relationship." No, no, no. Their retreat is subtle. It is almost imperceptible. It looks like delaying conversations about the future, keeping their world carefully compartmentalized, making plans but never quite following through, always being too busy for deep emotional discussions, disappearing, mentally, emotionally, sometimes even physically, when things start to feel too serious. And the result? The person who loves them feels confused, uncertain. like they are standing in a room with a disappearing door. One moment open, the next closed. They ask, "Do you love me?" And the avoidant, caught between their emotions and their fears, will give just enough of an answer to keep them there. "Of course I care about you. You know I'm just not good at this stuff. I just need time." And yet time comes and goes, and so does the avoidant. Not because they do not want love, but because they do not know how to hold on to it without feeling like they are drowning. How to help an avoidant commit without forcing them. And now we come to the most delicate part of all, because the truth is, you cannot force an avoidant to commit. You cannot argue them into loving you the way you want them to. You cannot make them see that their fear is an illusion. What you can do, however, is create the conditions in which they feel safe enough to step forward. Step 1. Give them space without punishing them for it. Now, this is the hardest thing for most people to understand. When an avoidant pulls away, the instinct is to chase, to demand answers. "Why are you shutting me out? Do you even care? Are you going to leave me?" But understand this. Pressure reinforces their fears. So instead say, "Take the space you need. I'm here when you're ready." This tells them two things. You are not abandoning them. They do not have to choose between love and freedom. Step 2. Show, don't tell. Avoidants do not trust words. They trust patterns. If you say, "I won't pressure you," but then bombard them with questions, they will feel manipulated. If you say, "You can trust me," but then punish them for their hesitation, they will withdraw. So instead, be consistent. Let them see, over time, that your love is steady. Step 3. Make commitment a choice, not an obligation. Avoidants resist commitment because they feel trapped. So reframe it. Instead of, "Why won't you commit to me?" try, "I love being with you, but I also need a relationship where I feel secure." Take your time, but understand that commitment isn't something I fear. If one day you are ready, I'd love that. But if you're not, I respect that too. This gives them responsibility for their own growth. It allows them to step forward, not because they are being forced, but because they choose to. Avoidants struggle to commit not because they do not love, but because love feels like a loss of self. But love, real love, is not about losing yourself. It is about being known and still being chosen. So if you love an avoidant, be patient, but not at the cost of your own needs. And if you are an avoidant, know this: your fear is real, but it does not have to define you. Because one day, if you are brave enough, you will realize love is not a cage. It is the one thing that can set you free. Now, if this resonated with you, consider subscribing. There is much more to uncover. Until next time, stay patient, stay wise, and above all, stay kind.
If you believe this video might help someone dear to you, share it with them. A small gesture on your part could mean the world to a friend in need.